we spent the whole day about talking state-by-state hope. The state-by-state hope report, what Steve's going to kind of host here now, is the national hope, where we are nationally. And Steve, it probably doesn't look like there's too much hope, right?
I'm so glad I got Mike Lindell on my panel. How did I rate this?
Holy crap, no kidding.
Just kidding. So this is a realistic discussion tonight about not just where we are, but where we're going and where the hope is. I think we could see the hope today in the state-by-state presentations. I thought they were absolutely incredible, and I want to give all you guys a hand for doing it. Before I introduce something, is Oregon here? Is the Oregon contingent here? Can Oregon stand up for a second? Look at the folks, all the folks we have from Oregon here, okay?
Yeah, look at that.
Now,
Unbelievable.
Hang on. Look at what those folks accomplished. Can everyone from a blue state also please stand up? Everybody from a blue state.
Wow.
This is the future right here. Look at the presentations we had on Oregon. Look at Illinois. Look at this magnificent report from New York State, right? Look at California. That's the hope. The hope was in the content today. So I've got an incredible panel here. Of course, Mike Lindell, Kurt Olsen, the top lawyer in this area, and of course, General Flynn. I asked everybody beforehand, give me some thoughts about hope so I know how to tee it up. And Mike, talk about the plan and other things about looking forward. Kurt Olsen had a whole punch list. He's a Navy SEAL, so everything's, very, very squared away. Naval Academy, all by the book. And I asked, General Flynn, I'm a good buddy of his, so I asked Mike, I said, Mike, give me some, what do you want to talk about? Upbeat, hope, the end times revelation.
I am ready to meet these son of a guns at the gates of hell if necessary.
All right.
Okay?
That's an Irishman that was born fighting. Absolutely. Okay, let's start. Kurt Olsen, your Naval Academy. Your dad was a naval officer, fighter pilot. You were a SEAL. You've been in some of the toughest legal fights. But I want to tell us, where is the hope? Not hopium, but where is the hope? If we stand today with 2024 and the whole world arraigned against us, including the RNC and all the establishment Republicans who are our worst enemies, right? The donors. Look at this. This should all be the RNC, and every donor should be here. You are the greatest field army I've ever seen, right? People, the Democrats would kill for something like this. You'd have 5 billionaires lined up. You don't have that. You know why? You're a threat to the established order. Kurt Olsen, give me today, from what you've seen, what you fought on, where's the hope?
I think you start off with, look how far we have come since 2016. And it used to be you would hear if there was any problem with the voting machine, somebody would say, a voting machine flipped my vote, and then it would kind of move on. It would be lost in the chaff, and we'd move on. Look at how everyone is focused like a laser on the machines, for example. Getting the system log files, looking at the audit log files, looking at the images, looking at things like SHA files and other things, people like Garland Favorito and Clay Parikh and Kevin Moncla, who have just done tremendous work of digging down what exactly it is these machines do. And Shelby Bush from We the People Arizona, you may have heard from all of them here. People are now exercising control. We can't rely necessarily on the courts, on law enforcement, or on politicians. People are relying on themselves to ferret out this information. And because we've ferreted out that information, for example, with the election contest that we did with Kari Lake, the 2 trials, those are election contests. They're not trials. There's no discovery. There isn't an opportunity to subpoena people or to take depositions, to get documents. The evidence that we uncovered came primarily through open records requests. And those were done by citizens. So we've learned so much more. We know so much more about how they're using the machines to manipulate elections, how they are using chain of custody, how they're injecting votes into the system. There are very specific legal requirements to maintain the chain of custody of a ballot, which is designed to show whether a ballot has been inserted or removed anywhere in the process. Mail-in voting by the Carter-Baker Commission was found to be the most...
If this is so self-evident,
Yeah.
why did old man Murdoch write a $800 million check not to have a trial to go forward? If we have this kind of evidence and we had this, why did the Murdochs write an $800 million? Why did I ever mention that Murdoch's a foreigner? Did I ever mention that? I want to see if there's any war room posses out here. No. Hold it. Always the best behaved. Always the lowest key.
Hold it. Promo code War Room.
Yeah. Mike Lindell in a pinch. No, seriously. We're always arguing about venues. We're always arguing about, you fought like crazy to get a venue. Mike Lindell has spent tens of millions of dollars trying to get a venue. This is why I keep saying the J6 thing with President Trump in Georgia. We're going to ram the stealing of Georgia down her throat. And we're going to ram it up the ass of the governor.
Why are the kids carrying?
Are you fired up yet? I can't hear you. God bless you. That's the revolution of 1776 right there. We're at about 1774. We're getting there. So, Kurt, seriously, if we got all this, and by the way, the presentations today, if you compare them to the first year in Sioux Falls and last year, the sophistication of the audience have now, it's self-taught. It's a learning organization, this group, in all 50 states. They're teaching themselves the learning curves like this, and that's why they are feared by the media, and that's why they are feared by the established order. But if we got all this, why did old man Murdoch, who throws nickels around like they're manhole covers, why did he write an $878 million check to avoid going to trial?
Because it wasn't about the trial. It's not about truth. You've talked about the World Economic Forum and the whole globalist movement. So you can look at that. The beauty of what's going on now is that the other side is exposing themselves. And so when you look at that settlement of $787 million, that is so far beyond even the enterprise value of Dominion voting systems. That is 10 times the multiple of that company. It makes no sense from a legal standpoint because Dominion could have never recovered that amount of damages, not even close if they had gone to trial. Never. So what does that tell you? That tells you there is an alternative purpose. It's not a business decision. It's not a legal decision. It's just like firing Tucker Carlson. Fox News fired Tucker Carlson. He was their biggest draw. They lost 30%. They lost a lot of money by doing that. They didn't fire him because of a business decision. They fired him because of what he was saying. And so what is the message that was sent by settling for $787?
Are you telling me that I shouldn't settle for $2 billion when I'm sued for $8 billion?
Nah, I would never settle.
But by the way, they didn't fire Tucker. They're still paying him not to talk. Right. Think about that, everybody. Right. They're paying him to sit on a bench. Imagine having a ball player that bats 400. He's your best ball player, and you go, okay, we're going to put him on the bench and keep paying him.
But hold it. He's batting 400 for us. He's batting 400 for populist nationalism, Trump, not the rest of the TV for stupid people, not Steve Ducey on the sofa every day talking about Youngkin or... By the way, did I call it? I said the moment that DeSantis went on NBC and he said the first question they threw to him, did Trump win the election? No, of course he didn't. Is Biden legitimate? Of course he's legitimate. I said in 2 or 3 weeks he'll be at single digits. The national poll today has Governor Ron DeSantis at 8%.
Wow.
So, This worked up front. This front row, man. Florida crowd's very rowdy.
Wow.
Florida men and women.
Florida. Go ahead.
Yeah, but just to finish this point, Murdoch paid $787 million, and that shows that it was worth more to him to shut people up and to perpetuate a false narrative. Just like this is all a false narrative. They go after people who are raising issues with the election machines. They sue them for billions of dollars. They send out threatening letters. They've come up with a new term called election deniers. It's all a psyop. So from the standpoint of Murdoch and the people that in the circles that he walks with, it was more important to give the narrative that, hey, there must be something here. Look, Fox settled for $787 million. There's nothing wrong with those.
Do you think, look, people know and people watch the show, I say I'm not a machine guy because I believe in the old, mail-in ballots, the signature verification. But Mike, over the last couple of years, in what you've done state by state, I think you've educated, particularly the technology people you've gotten on, the people that just don't know enough about the machines. You've gotten us up a learning curve.
Well, and that's the thing that changed my life forever was because if it would be, okay, just about turning over the election back to Donald Trump, I did my speech this morning. This isn't about that. When you have a press of a button that can steal your country, it's over. This is where we're at. This is where, and we're up, all the things I told you this morning, those are the miracles that got us here, because if it would have happened too early, we're just boiled like frogs, and they just accelerated it. We just sat and went, you know what? It's a 50-50 country. We took God out of the schools, and everybody turned liberal, and they love transistors and all this garbage. Let me tell you what we found. Here's a hope report for you for the country. In the cast vote records, y'all know what them are? Okay.
Yes.
They're like the cast vote records. This is stuff we can get from inside the machines under the Freedom of Information Act. If you miss a football game, it's like watching a replay of the game in the order it happened. It doesn't go 7-7, 14-7, second quarter, third quarter, 7-3. Okay? Of all the cast vote records that you all went out and got for the 2020 election before September 3rd of 2022, when we did the call to action last year at the Moment of Truth Summit, we got 1/3 of the United States, okay? And you know what? There are many states, I could list them, say, no, you can't get them, you can't get them. They're passing laws right now that we can't get them, but it's too late, we got them. In 2022, we have 1/5 of the United States of the cast vote records. But let me tell you something here. I was sitting last January, and I thought, I look for deviations every day. In the 2020 election, we couldn't find one county of those 1,100 counties we had that had either shows manipulation or not, computer manipulation or not. There's no in between. And we could not find one that wasn't computer manipulated. Now, here comes 2022. And we're going, I'm going, we got to get an example, at least a fair election here, right? Well, same thing. All of them, you couldn't find one, except I'm sitting at my show on January, and I go, wait a minute. Ron DeSantis won Florida, won Miami-Dade County by 11%. I go, that's a deviation. I said it on my show. We got to look into that. So Miami-Dade County, who had given us the cast vote records in 2020, no problem. Now I put out a thing, hey, we're going to look into that. The media hits the next day. Mike Lindell says DeSantis stole his election. Well, they took that story down right away, right? And here's what they did. So we go in there and we asked for the cast vote records. You all did. Anyone in Florida, you guys made those requests. They turned us down. They didn't want to give them this time. That's weird. Week goes by later and I put out another call for more people to go there and get them. Finally, they relinquished the cast vote records. Well, it took the great Jeff O'Donnell, it took him about 2 weeks to get those. I want those. I got a hunch, right? And it wasn't just Miami-Dade County. It was every county we could get in Florida. Well, you know what came back? The first time there was no computer manipulation. In other words, they said, well, the evil says, we're not going to manipulate that one. We're going to make DeSantis look real good. He didn't cheat. You just said an absolutely fair election. You follow me? So, but let me tell you, and I'll sit here, I could tell you all about DeSantis sitting with Dominion lawyers and stuff, but he's already at 9%. I don't even care anymore. Here's your hope is. This is very important hope. We took those numbers. Remember what I said now in Florida, that was an election, imagine, without machines, without computers. Every county we found, and I'm sure if we got the rest of them, that's what they did in Florida. Nothing. They didn't cheat with the machine. So we took that and we extrapolated across the United States, all the way to Hawaii and Alaska and every state in between. This country is 68% red if we get the machines gone. Now you think of that. You guys, think you got California, you think you're a blue state, you're probably not. Yeah. Okay? This is where we're at.
It's two-thirds, one-third.
Two-thirds of the country. They have lied to us with their lying propaganda. That's why I can't go anywhere in the country and can't find. Like I told the story this morning, I'm out in California in this very liberal Democrat city. And they're all coming up to me, and they're coming over this bucket of common sense. By the way, I'm not saying Republican. I'm saying the new Republican Party, this bucket, the common sense party, the party of Donald Trump.
Amen.
And they're piling in from both sides. And once you're in this bucket, you never leave the bucket. Period.
Yeah, but how many people knew what a cast vote record was 6 years ago?
No, yeah, but 6 years ago,
nobody.
And I'll tell you, and that's hope too. Do you guys understand what they tried to hide for 2.5 years to cover up? The biggest thing was the computers and the machines. Because 51 other countries, Bolsonaro and Brazil being number 52, they've succumbed to the machines. Period. That's the bottom line. When I told you this morning, a cabal of people running in, let's go commit a crime. When it would take 10,000 people to do the same crime, now it takes one person, ding, ding. And that's where we're at. But the hope is now, we get our elections. We get our elections secure. And it's 68%. And you know what?
But that's okay. But that's the point. That's the point. They're not going to allow that because that's how they have control. They understand that two-thirds of the country is populist Trump, MAGA, America First, that are tired of shoveling this money over Ukraine, are tired of having our kids brainwashed in school, are tired of this freak show, the groomer freak show. Two-thirds of the nation's repulsed by it. And that's why they will never, ever, ever give up control of this.
Well, that's why we have great news. Tomorrow, you're going to get the plan that's going to secure our elections immediately.
Are you tough enough to take your country back? Are you tough enough to take your country back? Are you going to let them steal this republic? USA! USA! USA!
USA!
Trump! 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 I want to send a message to Murdoch and that entire group of Keebler elves are going to be on stage next week. Who's the rightful president of the United States? I can't hear you. Is Joe Biden a legitimate president? Did they steal the election of 2020? Will you ever back down?
Hey, I want to say one more thing because we're streaming to 85 languages around the world right now, and I want to say,
they know exactly what we're saying.
If you're watching. And I want to tell you, the only way this plan fails is if people don't watch it. Right now, you need to spread the word everywhere. That is the most important thing for everybody to do. Let everybody know tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Time, you're going to see it live to the world. And I will say this, the United States, this isn't for them. The 52 countries that have been taken, this plan will work there too, so they'll have renewed hope.
Hold it. Eduardo Bolsonaro stood on that stage in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he told us exactly how they were going to steal it and put in a diehard communist, Lula, and a partner of the Chinese Communist Party.
Fresh out of prison, 6 years early.
For all the Lao Beijing they're watching in mainland China and the heroes that have come here to the United States to fight for your freedom, we will never allow machines. When you take down the CCP, we'll have your back. No machines in China. Take down the CCP.
And I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'll quit talking for a minute. One of the things this plan does, everybody, and I've said this isn't a Democrat-Republican thing. This is our election platforms, okay?
Amen.
Our election platforms. When people are elected, I got no problem if they're elected and not selected. But I will tell you, this plan does another thing. It's a filter. It's going to filter out anyone that doesn't like this plan. I've asked Democrat, Republican, it don't matter. Everyone's going to embrace it except for who? The uniparty CCP globalists, period. They're going to hold their hands up.
That's why the
Keebler
elves, the first two questions I got asked the Keebler elves, and the only question important, they tried to kneecap Trump back in 2015. Number one, did Donald J. Trump win the election on 3 November 2020? Yes or no? First question. If you answer no, get out of here. Number two, is Joe Biden a legitimate president of the United States? Answer the question, yes or no. There's no more Republican and Democrat. They're nationalist, populist, and they're globalist, right? That's the two differences. That's why Bobby Kennedy Jr., we don't agree with everything he has to say, but that's why he's getting traction. That's why Vivek's getting traction. All the other Keebler elves, they talk about stuff that was relevant in the 1980s. It's not relevant today, right? One question before I go to Mike Flynn, because I got to get... The reason I love Flynn, you get these dark Irishmen, man, they are fighters, okay? This brother will never give up. Kurt, one last thing. All right, I just want to make sure, because the thing gets so confusing to me. Do you believe, if the judge had allowed it in, I understand it's a lot of controversy about the judge in Delaware and what was going on, but if the judge had allowed the information in, is there any doubt in your mind that Murdoch's lawyers would have been able to make a case that the machines were a thing in stealing the election?
Yes.
No doubt in your mind?
No doubt in my mind.
And you're saying they waved off because they're part of this whole thing, that they don't mind the elections being stolen. The last thing they want to see is actually getting rid of machines and going to paper ballots, one-day vote, count them up like France, and we know by 11 o'clock at night what's happened.
Because it's more important to keep the people from controlling the elections. That's what's more important for them. They're controlling elections, and it's the agenda that they are trying to implement, the globalist agenda. $787 million is a pittance to what they hope to make from this. That's it. I mean, it's really that simple.
And it's not, I mean, we're talking about what they're going to make. What they think that they're going to make is the United States of America. Okay? Yes. This nation, so if you had one bank, you had one bank on the planet, in that bank would be $180 trillion. About the financial size scale of the world, about $180 trillion. One bank. In that bank account, there's only three bank holders, right? The number one bank holder that owns a third of that wealth is the United States of America. The next 10 countries on the planet own the next third, and the rest of the world own the rest of it. That's why they want the United States of America. And this globalist agenda has been going on for 50 years. Probably longer, but at least 50 years. These guys knew that the real plan, we wouldn't even be having this. In fact, we shouldn't be doing this, because it's this system, this election system, everything that's underneath all these machines, all these ballots, it belongs to us. We pay for every single bit of it. Every single bit of it. These people, they want to control the United States of America. When we talk about a globalist elite, it's not some the one thing that we can beat them on is the resources that are sitting in this room, and you represent, I mean, what scares everybody, what scares all the media, what scares all these globalist elites is that people like you, and there's about 1,000, maybe 1,500 in here today, you represent tens of millions of Americans. That's the hope.
That's right.
That's the design. Right. That's the resource.
You are a vanguard for revolution. You're a cadre for revolutionary change to get this country back to the republic that was bequeathed us. That's why they hate you. Right. That's why they fear you, and that's why they're trying to destroy you.
You're the commanders. You need to go back out. It's like disciples, if you want to put it in biblical terms. You are apostles. You are anointed to go back out to your states and activate as many people as you can. And I know that there's a lot of people that aren't here today that are already doing that kind of stuff across this country. I mean, a lot of people in the last 24 hours here have told me, hey, I heard you say something. I heard Mike Lindell say something. I heard Steve Bannon say, get involved. I did. I'm now on my school board. I'm now on I'm a council recorder or whatever the jobs are. We need to take this country back at the local level. We're not going to take it back in Washington, D.C. right now. Okay, not right now. Right now, we take it back at the local level. One precinct, one county at a time. And you tell anybody, you tell any of these sons of guns out there, any of these, and you know what? We've elected a lot of these people, and we got to stop doing that. But you tell anybody, you say, that piece of equipment, that piece of paper, that belongs to me. I am a United States taxpayer. Nothing in our election system, and I mean nothing, belongs to anybody else but we the people. This country, and I'm telling you, this is why I get so, I am beyond the sort of the, I am beyond the nonsense stage of my life, folks. Okay?
Mike Flynn's entered the danger zone.
Yeah. But when you think about warfare, because, oh my God, they're going to make me a domestic terrorist because I said warfare, right? When you think about warfare, what Steve just said about being the vanguard, being soldiers out there, right? Being people who are willing to step up and lead. The political class in this country has crushed our country.
Amen.
And I know that there's a few politicians that we had in here, over the last day here, and I'm looking at them going, and first thing I say is, are you brand new politician, or how long have you been in office? And if I hear they've been in an office for more than a term or two, I'm like, you need to leave. You need to leave because you're doing us no good. And don't go back to your states and fall into the trap that a lot of us do. Don't fall into the trap that you go back and some senator or some congressman or some local elected official who's a muckety-muck or whatever, they treat you like, oh, you're wonderful. You go, oh, he's really good. It's all those other people. No. It's the people that we have put into office, and we need to get rid of them. We need these people removed.
Okay, General, I got a question. Where's your hope there?
Right here. Hold it. I want you to remain standing. How many have been inspired by PrecinctStrategy.com? How many precinct men are here?
Yeah.
How many of the rest of you, how many of you guys have volunteered to represent your states and going through the election fraud? Please stand.
Look at this. Hey.
This is the future. This is what they fear. We cannot be defeated.
We can't.
Has anybody ever
And they know it.
Do you understand what you represent? Generation after generation is right here. They've never defeated the United States of America. They've never beaten the American people. That's what you represent. That's why they fear you. That's why they hate these guys. That's why they're trying to put us all in prison, bankrupt us, right? They think we're going to back down. They can suck on this. We have not yet begun to fight.
Hey.
It's you. It's you. Have you not yet begun to fight? I can't hear you. Are you going to tell the Keebler elves that? Are you here to fight? Or are you here to roll over and follow a Keebler elf to stand?
You're the soldiers.
Can all the Keebler elves combine defeat Donald Trump?
No way.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Fox every day, they're going to serve you up another guy. You're going to have Kemp. You're going to have Youngkin. You're going to have them all. Bring them all. Bring them all down to this fight. Bring them all against Trump. I dare you to round them all up. And Trump is going to beat all of them, beat all of them combined. Is that some hope for you, Mike? Is that good enough?
Well, I'm going to ask the general. I'm going to ask the general.
No.
I want to ask the general something. It's been 2.5 years
right here.
It's been 2.5 years now. Do you see from way back in December of 2020, and then where people a lot of people felt hopeless as we rolled into January and to February. Do you see the hope on the upswing or?
Oh, it's big time on the upswing.
There you go. That's what I want to hear.
Right away, I was in the February, March timeframe. Right away, they sued, the Dominion sued you, they sued Rudy, they sued Sydney, they sued Newsmax, they sued OAN.
Smartmatic was the first. They sued
they
Fox
sued like
News.
everybody, and they did it right away because they knew that's where their problems were. They did it right away, and what that did to a lot of people is that a lot of Americans went, "Ooh, I don't want to get involved," and then they started to attack other people in other states. They went after people, and they started. I mean, in some cases, they're indicting. I mean, look at what they're doing to the former president of the United States, the president of the United States, right? So what I'm getting at is that they will come after you and they will put fear, and there's an emotion of fear in all of us. You never lose it. If you think you lose it, you don't. What you have to do is you have to control it. And what we have done over these last couple of years is the American people have controlled that fear. And now we are moving into a place where we are going to be fearless. And they don't like that. They cannot stand that. Because when we stand up and we step up and we speak up, our voices cannot be quelched. They cannot be drowned out. They might come after, those of us, we're at the pointy end of the spear. That's fine. And we don't mind it. We're here. We're able to sit here. We're able to sit here with you. But like I said, you probably represent in this country over 100 million people. Over 100 million people in this country. And I'm talking Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, I don't care what color you are. Okay?
I want to say something there about fear.
Do you have fear?
Only fear the Lord. We have no other fear.
What did Christ Jesus tell you? Fear not.
Right, that's right.
Fear not.
That's right.
We're fearless. You people are fearless. You're here today with all the lawsuits, all the criminal charges. President Trump, they want to put in, think about this for a second, 700 years in prison. Yeah. This tell you the mask is off. Mike Lindell's right. The election in 16 was providential, but let me tell you something. The steal in 20 was actually more providential because the mask came off.
That's right.
You see that these are nothing but low-life, atheistic, Marxist, communist, totalitarian, the worst group of people in the world. Yeah. Hey, and when we defeat them, we're going to give them a choice. This country's going to get back to being run like the Republic it was, and if you don't like it, there's the door. Take off and go someplace else. Because we're never going to revert back the way you want it. Mike Lindell.
No, that's right. And I'll tell you, you talk about fear. I was just back there with a reporter from the New York Times, and she's talking about an indictment. I go, I don't care. Indict me. I don't care. I don't. It's like, they can do it. Nowadays, what they do, it's the opposite. I told the president, I said, every time they indict you, you go up more in the polls. And then, of course, I said, pretty soon you'll have more votes than voters in the United States, like Pennsylvania. Of course, the media grab that and they go, Mike Lindell says Donald Trump's going to have 330 million votes more. Is he going to cheat for him? It's crazy. But no, the hope is with you all, like the general says, and it's our voice. That's what I talked about this morning. Our voice. If we were to lost, if on January 7th and 8th, that's why it's so important of 2021, that little dot being our voice, if that would have went out, it was over. But it didn't go out. We started winning that day on January 9th because our voice started getting bigger. Maybe it stayed pretty small for a couple of weeks there, I'll give it that. But then it's just gotten bigger, and it's like a multiplier. You all tell people, you go back and you tell people, and they tell people, and pretty soon everybody knows the information. We don't need Fox News or Newsmax or Salem Media that won't talk about elections. I said it this morning. That's been more damage than the media that attacks, because at least they've gotten the word out, right? They're kind of stupid that way.
One of the things that we're not up here talking about, you don't hear about, we're not talking about the Democrat Party. We're not talking about, we mentioned the left and the globalist, this elite crowd. Our problem is in the Republican Party.
Amen.
I mean, why?
Amen.
And it is, and it's the establishment, it's the uniparty. I mean, an operation like this, an event like this. Why does Mike Lindell have to put an event like this on, and all the stuff that he has put into this? Why? I mean, the Republican National Committee ought to have their asses out of Washington, D.C. and right here. Where is the RNC? And I'm going to tell you, the RNC, nobody's giving them money anymore. Nobody's giving them money anymore. And it's because they have the people that are supposed to be, managing this party, they've turned their backs on us because they've turned their backs on this whole thing about election integrity. Those people aren't going to talk about election. They're not going to talk like we're talking. They're not going to say things like Donald Trump the election was rigged. Donald Trump won the 2020 election. But in a lot of ways, and I've had a tough time. My middle name is Thomas. Okay? I was named Thomas, but my middle name was precisely named because I'm a doubter. I doubt sometimes. And I've heard Mike Lindell talk about these miracles as to why we are where we are. And I've come to believe that because if we did not know that, because if I was on their team, I would have let Donald Trump win. I would have let him win. Donald Trump, and then just beat on him for 4 more years. And then by 2024, he's out. Then steal the election. That's right. Steal the country for the rest of the time. And we wouldn't be able to talk about this. Yep. If I was on their team and I was advising them before 2020, that's what I would have done. I would have done that. And that would have been the smartest thing for them to do. But just like everything else, when it comes to evil, their arrogance prevailed. And they are so arrogant. And they just figured, let's just do it now. Let's get it over with. And we'll just beat them to death.
You know why? Because they never planned on you.
Because they never planned on you. Ever.
They didn't know that citizens would rise up to do this.
They didn't think that we are going to go back to our founders, right? What's in the DNA of an American citizen is something called freedom. Okay? It's in our DNA. And I'll tell you, you don't fight. You don't fight an enemy because you hate the enemy. You fight an enemy because you love your country. Okay? You love your faith. You love your family. And that's why we're fighting. Because I know, and I look around, there was a couple of young people here today that had young kids here today. My mom used to call it forced family fun, right? Dragging the kids to some event. But when I look at those children, and thank you for the people that brought their children here to these things, even though they don't understand what's going on. But you're bringing them because that's what we're doing. We're doing this. When I look around the audience here, and there's a lot of relatively young people, but the generation that I'm a part of, the generation that we're a part of, we've got to take this country back because the future generations are working their asses off and little babies are trying to grow up and we're trying to keep them from what? Drag queen hour? I mean, come on, folks. We are not going to have this. We're not going to have this in this country. Enough is enough.
Good. I was just going to say one thing. Courage is contagious.
All right.
The more people stand up, the more others will stand up as well. And
there we go.
Will you stand and fight?
And this is a test of wills. That's all it is. It's going to be a slog. But just as General Flynn said, we're fighting for our country. We're fighting for our families. We're fighting for our values. And it's precisely because of that we will win as long as we don't quit. Everybody must stand up and take responsibility for their own safety, for their own family, for their country.
Let me say something about if Donald Trump, the loneliest day at the war room was the afternoon of January 2021. When President Trump went to Andrews, Boris was there reporting. You saw the plane took off, right? Our show ended at noon. Biden's out there with about 10 people in this ridiculous, because he didn't have anybody. They couldn't have drawn a crowd. That's what said, this is absurd. How dumb do they think we are? How stupid do they think we are? If Trump had gone back to Mar-a-Lago, by the way, all the Republicans, everybody left town. It was empty. Everybody gone. We said, no, we're going to stick right here. Because we need a rally point, right? We need a rally point. Because folks out there want to fight, but we have to have a rally point. President Trump went down to Mar-a-Lago. If he had just gone back to his businesses and gone back to buying these golf courses and, get him into the Open Championship Rota and the PGA and all that, and he rebuilt his businesses and became an elder statesman and wrote his memoirs, none of what has happened to him would have happened.
Right.
He showed more leadership, more moral courage than any president in the United States, except for maybe Lincoln in Washington. Maybe. He was like Cincinnatus, the Roman general that came back from the plow to save the Roman Republic. That's what Trump did, and that's why they hate him, and that's why they got to destroy him. Because he said he was not going to back down, and he's here. He's bigger than he's ever been. He's more focused than he's ever been. He's tougher than he's ever been, and he's the leader of a movement that has ascended, and that what has fear in them. They're the ones that have the fear. That's where they're striking out all over. That's where they're ripping apart the Constitution. That's where they're coming up with all these lawsuits, and this is why they're rounding up in Michigan the electors, in Georgia the electors, in Wisconsin the governor says he's going to come up. You're going to see it in Arizona, because that's what they're going to try to do to scare you. They're going to say, hey, if you're an average citizen, we're going to get Trump and the people around him, Rudy and all that, but we're going to get you, the average person, that will stand up and do things that an average person won't do and show courage. Trump led the way. Right now, if this continues on like we're going and we don't stop and we don't flinch, we are
keep
going
building and keep building this army. Keep building this army.
Do you understand the work of what you guys showed today? Trust me, people's heads were blown up. You came up here in such a all 50 states. When was the last time you had a roll call of states on anything? They don't do it at the conventions anymore, right? They don't want to hear about states. They just think they run the whole deal, and then that they're just going to run as some big market for the World Economic Forum. They don't want to hear about states. You came up representing your states, of the way this republic used to be run, and you made a report of what was happening, and you had the courage to say, we're not perfect, we've had some defeats, here's what we're doing. But that organization, that organizing principle, nobody showered tens of millions of dollars on you. Nobody's been leaders to you. You've self-organized and done that. That is exactly how we won the revolution, right? They see exactly what's happening. That's why they hate you. And that's why they hate Trump. If Trump had been a good boy and just gone home, they would have had a big book deal, had a TV deal, all of it. He said, no, I'm returning. And he said, this country is now not in managed decline like in 16, managed decline by our elites. It's in a total, complete free fall. And he put everything on the line. 700 years in prison. 700 years in prison.
100 felonies.
100 felonies. Think about that for a second. Is that absurd? For an individual to put everything and throw it at Hillary Clinton and all those Marxists back in 16? That's what he deserves, 100 years in prison. You see him up there laughing on TV all the time, laughing in the newsroom of the New York Times. Hey, I got news for you, MSNBC and the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. You ain't going to be laughing when we take over in 2025, okay? Because we're going to take the administrative state and we're going to take the deep state. And those of you we don't take to trial and put in prison, we're going to get rid of the rest of you. You're all going to go home.
Okay, I want to say tomorrow, everything you've all been doing for 2.5 years, everything the courage, all of you went out there with courage, and you've come. It's kind of like chutes and ladders when we were kids. You climb up, but you go down, but you keep climbing. You keep going, right? You get setback, and we're getting bigger and bigger. I'm telling you, tomorrow, when this plan is announced to the world that secures our elections immediately, Friday morning, you guys. But the one thing I forgot to tell you, what you're doing is going to be 100 times easier come Friday morning. You might even be able to take a day off once a week, okay?
Hold it. Whoa. This crowd doesn't want easy. This crowd wants hard. This is a cadre.
You can do the same things now, but it's expanded 100-fold. You can, instead of when you climb that ladder, there's not going to be a chute going down, just very little. It's all going to be uphill.
Mike, Kurt, if you guys have anything in summary, I think it's time.
Yeah, here's what I would say is that we are never done until we quit. So
amen.
We will never
ever
quit. We will never quit. And keep that mindset. When you're done, it's when you quit or when you die. And there's been too much sacrifice in this country for its 250 years of existence to allow that to happen. So we will never, never quit. That's what they fear. And I want to put that type of fear into them. And they do. They fear it now. They believe it because people around this country are going, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think I believe it. And I'm going to come at you, and I'm going to challenge you. And that's what we need to keep doing. We need to keep challenging. You need to go back to your states. You need to continue to coordinate with each other. You need to keep talking with each other. You need to keep sharing lessons. That's how we should operate going forward. And this won't be the last time. Even after the next couple of days, we're going to keep doing these things. We're going to keep rallying this country, around the country. And you're going to have to, come to arms, right? Come to arms right now. That's what we're talking about. Be that vanguard that Steve talked about. Go out there and recruit more soldiers in your states, in your counties. Get people to stand up, step up, speak up, and never quit.
Our strength is in the power of numbers. And it's been said that is what they fear. They just don't fear just the numbers, but they fear the numbers coming together. That's why they are doing everything they can to keep us divided, to keep us in fear. Once people come together, we are unstoppable. They know that. And I will give a couple little pieces of optimism. There was an opinion that came out of the Western District of Louisiana in a case called Missouri v. Biden. It was about censorship. It was issued on the 4th of July. That opinion is one of the most significant opinions to come out of a court in 100 years. What the court said is what the government did in censoring Americans was the most significant violation of our Constitution ever. That's a crack in the dam.
Yep.
We are going to win because the truth wins as long as we keep fighting.
Yeah, I want to add to that. When you talk about all the lawsuits out there where no judges have ever looked at any evidence on merit, and you think, but Kurt, you've been involved in so many of them. I don't know if you know, Kurt was also involved in Texas versus Pennsylvania, and all these things. Well, this just happened when lawfare started on February 4th of 2021 when Smartmatic sued Fox. Just yesterday, maybe you don't even know this, or maybe it was the day before. I don't know if Garland Favorito said it up here, but they sanctioned him with lawfare in Georgia, and he won the case. A judge ruled against it, and they couldn't, against his sanction. That's the first one, isn't it, in the United States?
Well, they tried to sanction me twice at the end of Kerry Lake's trial, and the judge denied it both times.
Oh, so you were first.
Okay, we got Lou Dobbs next. I want to leave with one thought. Tonight, when you go home and pray, thank God in heaven that you're here now to save the greatest country in the history of mankind. He put you here for this purpose. Clement said today, you're the Red Sea. The administrative state, the deep state, all the Marxists, the World Economic Forum, that's Pharaoh's army, and they're marching to the Red Sea. Let's get rid of them.